This is going to be an evergreen 49ers video, one that withstands the test of time, something that you can return to every single time that you have a question about why the 49ers might be doing something specific in their roster and franchise building process. We have the 5 steps of the 49ers franchise building process. This is their strategy simplified. Everything a little bit more complicated fits into these 5 steps. So, let's take a look. It starts with acquiring and developing A-list players and undervalued B-listers. So the 49ers, when they move on to step number 2 of this, paying those A-list players, they want to build and retain a star core of football players on their football team. Nick Bosa is going to be in that star core. Deebo Samuel's in it. George Kittle's in it. Those are the guys that they're okay with spending money on. Bosa's going to enter that core this offseason. They're going to be okay with spending money on him. Then we'll find who the next member of the A-list core is the following season. Is it going to be Brandon Ayuk? If he delivers another 1,000-plus yard receiving season, probably, because he's an elite beater of man coverage. But the good news is that the salary cap generally increases every single season along with NFL revenues. So the 49ers have the money available to them to accommodate the increasing size of their A-list core. But number 3 is really cool because you have B-list players that fill out the rest of the 53-man roster. And you obviously can't pay everybody under the salary cap because you're saving your money for those A-listers. So when those B-listers become too expensive, when they hit free agency, kind of like Charles Omenihu, Sansom Ebukam, guys like that, you let them walk. Because when they walk, you can attain comp picks in return, up to 4 per year. The 49ers maxed out the comp strategy last offseason. They're going to have 4 comp picks due to player departures this next draft. And it looks like they're well on the way to maxing out at 4 comp picks for the 2024 draft as well. That's when you get those comp picks, and obviously you can replenish. We'll talk about that in step 5. Step number 4, develop that coaching staff as well, because that does a couple things. It allows you to develop players if you have good coaches. Coaching, there's no limit on what you can spend on coaching. You can make sure that you have good developed coaches because they can develop your players. And with no salary cap on coaches, that's actually a really efficient way of conducting business. But on top of that, if you develop the coaching staff, you stand a chance to gain even more compensatory picks through the minority hiring process because you could develop your staff and you can develop your front office. And the 49ers have benefited from both. That's why they maxed out at 3 compensatory picks for coaches in this coming draft. So 7 compensatory picks for the 49ers total, which feeds directly into number 5. Number 5, pick your next A-listers and developmental projects with the compensatory picks that you accumulated through the development of your B-list players and your coaches. And then the cycle starts all over again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The 49ers currently, they've lost a lot of players in this free agency. They are currently on number 3. Different stuff is going to happen throughout the course of the offseason as the 49ers cycle through, but we can always go to this list and point out exactly what part of the plan that they're on. So they lost Charles Omenihu. They lost Sansom Ebukam. They've lost Emmanuel Mosley. They lost Arden Key a season ago, and now he's signed with the Tennessee Titans. Those are all B-listers. And guess how they obtained those guys? Through number 1. They obtained them because they were undervalued B-listers, and they developed them into B-listers who are worth more money, and they're going to get comp picks in return for these guys leaving. So the player development has happened. Number 4, they've developed a coaching staff that's really good. Chris Kocurek is part of that coaching staff. Number 4 has allowed the 49ers to go from number 1 to number 3 to make that outcome happen. This is a machine. The 49ers are just plugging talent into a machine, and it's churning good football out. You've got to keep that machine rolling as time goes along. The draft is going to be coming up in a couple months. That's where the 49ers are going to have to pick their next A-listers, potential A-listers, because very few players come out of the draft ready-made, and their next project so they could plug them into the machine, into the program where the coaching staff is able to develop and pump out more compensatory picks. It's the cycle of life. It's a sustainable way to build a team. So far, so good for the 49ers. but it's never worth it to freak out in the heat of the moment before the offseason is done. And here's why: because you look at the strategy, and part of the strategy involves losing some players. All right. Thanks for attending the TED Talk. We'll talk to everybody soon.